There was this one specific day when I carried her morning coffee to her, and she looked at me and she said, "You know, I like my coffee like how I like my men. Black." Welcome, everybody. I'm Andre. This is Roman a Day. And I need you to tell me if these are cookies or sewing supplies. Racism. We all know the word. We've all come in some contact or conversation with the issue. And for those affected, the aftertaste is usually a bitter one. The act of racism can make someone's daily life difficult. Now, if you put that someone in a country that's not their birth country, things can get a little bit complicated. Now, I moved to Tennessee from New York for love, and my feelings for the volunteer state is a love-hate relationship. I was a CNA in the great state of Tennessee, the first state in which I was called a nag. When I made that decision, 90% of my friends told me it was a bad idea. They all pretty much suggested that in Tennessee, all they do is lynch minorities. They pretty much suggested that all they do is lynch minorities down there. Can I tell you, with that in mind, my reactions when doing a lot of road trips to rural Tennessee and seeing all the Confederate flags everywhere. Story time. My first story is gonna come from one of the universities that I went to when I was in Tennessee. And as my saying goes, me not calling a name. I've always been a fan of cameras. And at the time, my favorite camera brand was Canon. And I remember I got a brand new Canon camera. It was my first time getting into DSLRs at the time. And I wanted someone to help me get to know it and maybe, get some extra gigs or maybe even volunteer at one of the media departments at the university. So that's exactly what I did. I went to the media department of the university. And I remember when I went there, I didn't think anything of it. I just said I was going to go inside. I was going to ask whoever is in charge that, hey, I'm a student here. I got a new camera. I have a media background. So I'm just wondering if I could get any advice or even get the opportunity to volunteer to help out so I can maybe get to use different types of cameras or even my camera and get some practice in. Of course, you know how my stories always go. It was not that simple. When I went to the media department, I saw the person who was in charge. It was a Caucasian, of course. And by the way, this university, they didn't have a lot of black students. I could count on both hands how many black students I saw, and half of those people were on the basketball team. So, I presented my situation to this gentleman, and I asked if he would be willing to help. First of all, he looked very skeptical from the time I walked in. If you don't know what that means, go figure it out. While I was talking to him, he was looking at me from head to toe. This seems to be a trend when people don't really like you. I got the sense that he wasn't really paying attention to what I was saying, because when I showed him the camera, the first thing he asked was, "Where did I get that camera from?" As soon as he said that, my demeanor changed. I went from the guy seeking a little help to the feisty, defensive Jamaican that every single Jamaican on this planet can be. I looked at him square in the eyes and I asked him what he meant by "where did I get the camera from?" All he could say is, "That's an expensive camera. Where did you get it from?" And I told him I bought it. And actually, he wasn't using the word buy. He was using the word get. And that sort of irked me in the wrong way. Now, the more he asked me where did I get that camera from, the more my demeanor got defensive. And to put a long story short, I asked him one final time, "Hey, can you help me volunteer in this department?" And he looked at me dead in the eye and said, "No, I cannot help you." This university, this department, this gentleman was my first brush with Southern hospitality. And it didn't leave a good taste in my mouth. Anyways, next story. I was going to stick with one story from that university, but let's go to another one. Now, sometimes racism can come off a bit passive, and sometimes the people that do it don't even realize that they're doing it. There was this one professor at the same university. I can't remember the course because it was a while back, but he was one of the, at first, in general, he was one of the pretty good professors. He was this older Caucasian. Now, I remember one time he was in the class and he was giving a story about when he was a missionary in the country of Trinidad and Tobago. That's a country in the Caribbean. Yes, folks, not all countries in the Caribbean are Jamaica. All right. I don't want any trouble. Anyways, he was talking about how he was a missionary in Trinidad and Tobago. So after the class, I came up to him and we started talking about the Caribbean. And then he heard my accent, and of course he asked me where I was from. And I told him Jamaica. And he was like pretty hyped up that I was from Jamaica because he hadn't been to Jamaica, but he said every time he was in Trinidad, he would always hear about Jamaica and all the mission trips that some folks from his church used to go to. So that was an interest of him, as it is with everybody, to go to the beautiful island of Jamaica. Yard man. Now, for some reason, the story turned into the discussion on politics. I remember at the time it was when President Obama was going for his second term, so he was campaigning, and I think at that time he was visiting the state of Tennessee, the Nashville area, and politics came up. Now, for some reason, the story turned to him asking me about what I thought about slavery and where it is in modern day America. Well, there's one thing you should know about me. I love to play devil's advocate. I knew exactly where he was going with this conversation, so I played along. I told him that growing up in Jamaica, I saw black politicians, I saw black businessmen, I saw black, everybody in power was black. And I was used to seeing black people in power. So the whole issue of slavery, I don't have an issue because I did not grow up in that society. Now, you want to know what his reply was? His reply was, that's exactly what I've been saying. These people. And when he said that, I gave him a look. And he looked at me and saw the look. And his reaction was, not his reaction, his words were like, no, I'm not talking about you. You are one of the good ones. He was saying that black people in America need to get over slavery. And in the state of Tennessee, that was a theme that I saw from a good amount of people. Now, I can tell you one thing. This professor was lucky that he was talking to me in my situation at the time and not talking to a less passive-aggressive Jamaican. Now, I can't begin to tell you how uncomfortable and uncontrollably angry inside I was. And what made it even worse is because I was new to the state and I was new to that type of living, I was unable or unsure of how to react. That was one of the most uncomfortable feelings I've had since I've been to that state. And the fact is, this conversation, this professor wasn't one of the lynch mob in public person. So that made the situation just so much more, uncontrollable. Sometimes you might think it's the people who are outright that are dangerous. The ones that can do the most damage are the ones in the shadows. Anyways, next story. You remember in the last episode when I talked about Tennessee, the state in which I was called a N-word for the first time? Let's talk about that. As you can recall from the last episode as well, my second job in this country was as a CNA. And this was in the state of Tennessee. I was doing the good old night shift, and there was this one patient. He wasn't really a talker, but if there was one thing that he was aggressive. He was mainly aggressive with the female nurses. He didn't really try that with the male nurses or the male techs. It was my turn to go into the room to go check on him and make sure he was clean and everything. This man wasn't up on sound mind. He might have been incontinent and unable for certain reasons to take care of himself, but this was there. And I remember when I went into the room, again, he looked me from head to toe, skin up his nose. Again, he looked me from head to toe and skin up his nose. No. Again, he looked me from head to toe and skin up his nose. And seen. Again, he looked at me from head to toe. It's a trend. And he said, I don't want you in here. I was flabbergasted. I felt bamboozled. I felt hoodwinked. No, I was just shocked. He just caught me off guard. He caught me off guard. I just stood there. By now you would think I would be used to this. But no, I just stood there. And he looked at me and he said, you heard me. I said, you and Obama. No. Oh, this is the second time Obama has come up in this episode. I don't know what Obama did to this man. No, I made a U-turn. I went outside and I got the nurse. She was Caucasian. And when she came into the room and said to the man that he's not behaving himself, he told her, I ain't listening to you, lover. Thinking about this now is hilarious. But at the time, I didn't want to kick him down. I just had to collect myself, step out of the room and allow the lover to take care of him. When I was a nurse tech, if there's one thing that was guaranteed to happen was the old ladies would always love me a bit too much. Now let's talk about this old white southern lady who always told me how much she likes me. But for some reason, she always referred to me as the handsome Negro man. There was this one specific day when I carried her morning coffee to her. And she looked at me and she said, you know, I like my coffee like how I like my men. Black. Now, as an immigrant, you're going to have more to deal with than just the racism on your plate. People are going to hate you for what you believe in. They're going to hate you for your different culture. And they're going to hate you simply for not being from their country. Some might have their reasons. Others may just not like different. Let's get back to that medical facility. I guess this is where they housed all the... You know what, never mind. There was this new patient. He was a sweet talker. He was, again, Caucasian. And he would be nice to all the nurses, all the techs, all the physical therapists, everybody, but me. Now, a lot of black people worked at this facility. A lot of Hispanics worked at this facility. It wasn't just whites. This gentleman did not like me. Whenever anyone else was in there, he would put on a show. But as soon as I got in, it was just attitude. And I couldn't get it. I did not understand it. Until one day, one of the nurses came to me and asked me if I ever told him that I was Jamaican. And I said, no, I never told him I was Jamaican. But of course, he heard my accent. Now, one day when he was my patient, I went into his room and I asked him, hey, how did you know I was Jamaican? And he told me that I know every Jamaican because a Jamaican killed my brother. Well, turns out that this man was just in his feelings. A Jamaican did kill his brother. Now, as time went by and this gentleman realized that I was a professional and a pretty damn good CNA. I was a pretty damn good tech. Toot, toot. Now, as he realized that I was a pretty good tech, he began talking to me. And I mean, this man was in his feelings. Someone killed his brother who was not American. And that person happened to be Jamaican. And he didn't meet a lot of Jamaicans. Now, at the end of the day, this gentleman apologized to me, and he turned out to be a pretty decent patient. What can I say? Now, a lot of immigrants come into contact with the cops, the police, the po-po, 5-0. And when I lived in New York, they were everywhere. And this was the time when stop and frisk was a thing. So they could randomly stop anybody and question them and search them and pretty much do whatever they want. Yeah, I know the do whatever they want thing wasn't the law, but you don't know New Yorkers and you don't know New York cops. You know, my friends and I, we were coming from a little stroll across the Brooklyn Bridge. A little stroll that every tourist that go to New York likes to do. Now, when we came from off the bridge, there was a turn that there weren't any signs or anything that said we couldn't go to that part of the street. So all of us walked that part of the street. We weren't jaywalking or anything. It was still on the sidewalk. When we were walking that way, I don't know if we made a wrong turn or anything, but all of a sudden there was lights and screams telling us to stop. We stopped and we were in a daze because it's the cops, right? Now, there were 2 white cops and 1 black cop. And this is the crazy thing. The white cops were the good ones. The black cop, well, I don't know if someone spit on his donut that day. Yeah, I know not all police love donuts. The 2 white cops had us to one side while the black cop took all of our IDs. He went to his car, came back. He gave all of my friends their IDs. And when he was putting the ID in my hand and I grabbed it, he held on to it. And he looked at me and he said, "You better watch out." Now, I know that little exchange was because I was the only green card holder at the time. I wasn't a citizen. And he was threatening me. In all of the hubbub, he was a very loud and rude cop to us. And while he was checking all our IDs, the other 2 white cops were laughing and they were pretty much saying that's how he is. No, none of us knew why he was acting this way, especially towards me. Was he a Jamaican too? Did he have negative experiences with expats? Or was he just being a So, what do I think? How many times do we have to tell stories about us being followed around in stores? People clenching their purses as we walk by. It's so bad that sometimes I cross the street to avoid issues. Hell, I'm tired of being asked if I smoke weed. I'm Jamaican, right? I don't smoke weed. Me not smoke it. Hey, real quick, like, subscribe, and share. It helps a lot. Now, at the end of the day, what do you do? What can you do? The wicked will do wicked. The good will do good. But I'll tell you this. Racism, discrimination, xenophobia are very present dangers. And as an immigrant, your battle with progression, assimilation, power will just be that much more difficult than a native. But whenever this happens, you have to take some time. You have to collect your thoughts, focus, set your vision, create a positive mindset. Listen, I've been there. I am there. We are all our own unique individuals. We all react different. But one thing is for sure, to have your success, to have our success as immigrants, we have to manifest positive and powerful thoughts. Every country has a system. Find it. Use it. Military folks usually say, use the military because it sure as hell will use you. But if there's one main point I want you to get, it's this. No matter the reason you are in that new country you're in, it could have been by choice, it could have been by force. Don't let anyone stand in your way of success. You are here. You are an immigrant. You got this. Till next time, roam good. Hey folks, thank you for watching this episode. I really appreciate your support. So I'm just asking you, if you like this episode, just go ahead and hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and go ahead and share this in your socials. It helps a lot. All right. Thank you.